what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, we have a list of reasons why small businesses fail, and I'm happy to report that listening to our podcast is not on it, but we'll tell you what it is. Our guest today is Eric Buckland, who is an entrepreneur who has led a successful startup, pitched for investment dollars, sold it to a large company, and now is looking to do it for a second time. We're going to be talking with him about putting together a pitch for equity investors and find out why he wants to go through this process again. Finally, we'll wind up with our Small Business of the Month feature, where we'll highlight some interesting businesses that you need to be checking out. My name is Jeff Neuville. I'm your co-host. I'm director of the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Dean of the School of Business, Industry, and Technology at Catawba Valley Community College. Gary, how you doing?
Jeff, I'm doing great, although I'm a little tired and a little worried about next week, but I'm excited at the same time.
So your next week, you will be traveling to Louisville, Kentucky to participate in the National Skills USA competition.
Yes, exactly.
And how many students are you taking with you?
47.
You're taking 47 students. Will you have any chaperone help?
A couple. So it's going to be a crazy week, but it's going to be a great week, and that's the most we've ever taken. And we're very excited. And of course, we're taking 8 of your students that will be competing in the Entrepreneurship College Division and the Entrepreneurship High School Division. Again, we'll be the only school in the country that has a high school and a college team competing. So congratulations to you. Well, so these podcasts are obviously working.
Well, and as you know, I gave them important advice this week about staying out of trouble and not getting arrested.
Yes, and I followed back up and said that Mrs. Muller and I don't want to pick them up at the prison or anywhere else that might be bad.
I'm with you on that. Well, we wish you safe travels, and we always try to talk a little bit about some interesting stuff that we've come over, and I was just came across an article that was quoting a study done by the National Association of Small Businesses, which I'm going to assume is a reputable organization for the purpose of our podcast, or at least as reputable as our podcast, and was talking about the top causes of small business failure. And I sort of saw a theme, and we're always trying to say, hey, these are some things you should be looking out for. But the number one thing that they came up with, and this is self-reported by small business owners, is no market need. Lack of research, man.
We spend that or talk about that a lot of times. Spend a ton of time talking about that.
Well,
really recently, we've had some folks talking about it. You don't develop a product and then go out and try to find somebody to sell it to. You want to solve a problem, a process, or a product, but it happens a lot.
Well, and one of the concepts that I suspect our guest is familiar with is discovery and traction. Trying to make sure that you actually have customers out there that want to buy your product, and that's if you don't have that, you're
exactly. And that doesn't mean you may develop a product, and you just want to make sure that if it's really good, that you try to develop what's the marketing plan that's going to find the target market that's going to best fit that product.
Number 2 issue. Ran out of cash. They gotta have the money. Some people start businesses, and it might be a little while before people embrace your product or services, and you need to make sure that you've got the startup capital to not only get up and running, but to be sustaining for several months or maybe a year before you're going to start making any money.
You got to have a plan. Rose-colored glasses, we all get excited, but we got to make sure we have enough cash to make it to when it hits the big time.
Third thing on their list, not the right team. Got to have the right people on the bus.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
The fourth one I found interesting, and it was got out-competed. Out-competed.
That's interesting.
I think it's interesting that people might have the self-realization to maybe see that at least. Sometimes you have to be able to look in the mirror and understand that.
Maybe there's somebody's more committed. Is that what you're thinking?
I don't know, maybe. Yeah, who knows? And the last one, or the fifth one, there's some longer, but I sort of stopped at number 5, was pricing and cost issues, which to me sort of go back to the understanding the market need and making sure that the whole thing fits together. And that I might have a wonderful product, but if I price it at such a price that people can't afford it or have other options, they might not.
I'll brag on you because the students that are going to nationals for these 2 teams, I watched you talk to them about not just the product and what to do, but that they do need to understand the financial side of the business and understand what pricing impacts could have. And I think they're learning that at a very early age, and that's very, very important. So kudos to you.
Well, I hope they just stay out of jail, Gary. Good luck with that.
Well, that's my first goal, too.
Well, let's introduce our guest today. Eric Buckland is with it. Eric, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
Glad you're with us.
Excited to be here.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange. And Eric has, I'm going to throw a number out because it's on your LinkedIn profile, 30 years experience commercializing optical technologies with a focus on identifying and developing new application and businesses. Eric's the founder and CEO of Bioptogen. Did I say that correctly?
That was my previous company.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It was an international brand recognized for superior imaging systems in transitional research, pediatric, and surgical ophthalmology. A lot of multisyllabic big words there, Eric.
We only use big words. Yes.
Which you sold to Microsystems in 2015.
That's right.
Have 70 patents.
And growing.
Plus or minus, right. or plus, for FDA 510K clearances. Not even sure what that is, but it sounds significant.
Yeah, they're medical devices, and we got them through the regulatory process, which is full of its own landmines.
Our listeners will quickly realize that Eric is much smarter than either Gary or I.
Trust me, that's what I was thinking about leaving.
He has a master's in physics from North Carolina State University and a PhD in optical physics from the University of Rochester. So He's got some chops. Yeah, so we're going to pretend we're
NC
smart.
State?
NC State for my first 2 degrees, right?
My daughter just graduated from NC State.
You were in Chapel Hill for a piece of time as well?
I played in Chapel Hill for a couple of years and then decided I needed to buckle down. And so I went to the real school. I love Chapel Hill and Duke and Wake Forest.
I went to Wake Forest, and my daughter just graduated from State. So.
Duke's not that great. So anyway.
You won't get a lot of support for them
He's currently working on a new startup, Translational Imaging Innovations.
Yes.
And that integrates imaging science workflows and advanced analytics for research and clinical trials. So anyway, you've done a lot of this, and you have what they call in the biz a track record.
I have a track record. Whether I want everyone to know all of the track record or not is a different story.
Well, we'll tell you. So you've taken, you've started a company, successfully gone out there, raised money for it, actually ended up selling it. Tell us just a little bit about your sort of experience as an entrepreneur. I mean, how did where did this come from? At one point, I know you worked for Corning, and you were sort of a corporate guy at one point in time.
I would say I'm in the second half of my second career right now. My first career was corporate. I worked for 3 multinational companies. I was in the fiber optics industry, which is big in our region, and I worked for a Japanese company, Sumitomo Electric, and then I worked for Alcatel, which is now Prismium. Then I went to Corning. So I've been all over the telecom and fiber optics space. In each of those roles, it was a bit of a startup in those environments. So helped establish a new manufacturing operation for Sumitomo in the United States. And then Alcatel was bringing their global R&D into the United States at their Conover facility, right. I guess it's Conover. And then Corning was starting a new business at the toe of the telecom bubble that we might remember. And so I was part of, at that, Corning tend to hire entry level and then grow employees, and at this stage they wanted to hire some outside people, get some new thinking and experience. So I got hired as part of a core team to build a new business inside Corning, and which was a great run, but we went from 5 people to 400 people in 3 years and 0 revenues to $40 million in 3 years. And then this little thing called the telecom bubble collapse happened. And so I spent a year and a half helping Corning disassemble their photonics operation, and said, okay, enough of the corporate world. I got to do this on my own. And so my objective actually was, one is I wanted to do something in North Carolina because this is where I live. Had to be in optics because that's what I know. Wanted it to be a spin out of a university because I'm a techie guy and I wanted some high-tech stuff. And I wanted to get out of telecom and do something in life sciences, which I had no reason to expect I could do. But that's what I did. So I found a professor at Duke University in biomedical engineering. Shout out to Joe Izat. And convinced him to start a business with me. Took about a year of getting to know each other before we were actually running. But we did. So we raised money on SBIR grants, angel investors, and strategic investors. We can talk about all that. Ran it for 11 years before we sold it. So it was great. And so why did I do the entrepreneurial thing? It's I had my experience in the corporate. I'm not a corporate guy. I don't do well in that. I do okay. I don't do well in that environment. And once you get this in your blood, I think it's what you do. So if you do it, it's hard to go back to corporate, and that's why I'm doing my second one.
Well, and I guess some people call it being an intrapreneur, and that
Right,
there are
that's right.
organizations that have very entrepreneurial-oriented people in them that might be starting new divisions, might be doing new plants, might be doing various things. And it sounds like there were some seeds planted there at some point.
There were seeds planted all along that, and it just took a while for me to grow up and sprout.
Well, what we really want to focus on, and for our listeners, is everyone. Too many people watch Shark Tank, and they go out there and sometimes they think,
Is that a slam at me?
You should be watching Shark Tank, but a lot of people might think that, it looks so easy. You just go up there and make a pitch, and there are people ready to write checks and everything like that. And it ain't so easy when it comes down to it. You have made presentations and pitches to investors, and I think that you have been funded through investors, and I know that's something that you're working on right now with your current newer business. So, when people are making pitches, or let's start off with: are there certain types of businesses that equity investors, angel investors, have more interest in funding, and are there certain things of really that's something that's going to come out of your pocket or the friends and family pocket, sort of help us understand what the landscape looks like out there.
Well, first let me say Shark Tank doesn't make it look easy. So if you know anything about the background, right, people spend tens of thousands of dollars preparing. They get taken through grinders before they can. So this happens in pitching anyway. Yeah. You have to go through screening processes. There's a series of steps. It's not a pitch isn't the end. It's not the beginning, and it's not the end of the process. And the questions that are asked in Shark Tank, I think, are quite relevant. And by the way, they don't close all the deals that they say they're going to close. So you're
that's
just
when they start
looking at
doing
the
the due
fun part
diligence.
of people who learn a little bit of Ronco micro advertising to.
We love to use Shark Tank just as a way to get students kind of interested in it, and they can kind of see the TV side, fun side of it. And
I do think that the Shark Tank investors ask good questions, and I think that's the important part to take away. They really do ask the business-oriented questions. So the type of business, let's forget Shark Tank now. So the type of business that we want to take in front of an investor, of course, depends on who the investor is. So as you mentioned, let's talk about kind of 4 categories of investors. You have friends and family. Some people say the triple F. There's friends, family, and fools.
There's a fool in there as well.
And then we have angel investors, and angels can be either individual angels, people who are investing their own capital, or groups of angels and in networks, and they organize in different ways. The important thing about angels, as opposed to the next group we'll mention, is that they're investing their own money. So it comes out of their pocket. The third group is venture capital. And venture capital, they have limited partners, so the venture capital firms are investing somebody else's money, so they have a different sort of accountability for the returns. The fourth group, I'll say, are strategic partners. So strategic partners are companies that see something in what you're doing and think they can take a little risk with you at the hope of getting an ability to work with you after your product is validated and scales. So for my previous company, which was Bioptogen, we were a spin out of Duke University. We started with friends and family because, well, we actually started, let me add, SBIR grants, Small Business Innovation Research grants. So if you're doing something technical, there is a government funding avenue, which everyone should take advantage of if they can.
And I would say, because we get people that come into our center looking for business grants, they are limited to certain industries or more likely to be given to certain industries. It's not going to be
that's right. It's not
the person to open your coffee shop or something like that.
That's exactly right. So when you're raising, so friends and families, your parents, your own mortgage, people who trust you. But the point about friends and families is they're investing in you and not the business because they don't know how to value the business.
Right.
And it's important on a couple of ways to both treat them fairly, but not so fairly that the next investors are going to say, why did you give away your company to friends and family? Well, you can get back into that if you'd like. Angels, everything. So the next group we raised from were angel investors. And angel groups, both out of the North Carolina ecosystem, but we were all along, let's say, the Atlantic seaboard, and we raised from Savannah up to Pittsburgh over time. Angels tend to get more serious about the business, and they want to return. So the sort of businesses that angels invest in, they have to have a couple of criteria. One is they have to generate revenue over a relatively short period of time, and generally, and it's not 100%, but angels like to see that you already have traction through revenue because there's only so much risk they're willing to take. But that's not 100% of the time. And they want to see you can get to sizable revenue in a relatively short period of time because they don't want to support you until your retirement. So, typically they want you out and they want to exit in 5 years. So they also want to know that they can fund you enough to get you where you're going. So they don't want to get in at an early round and then you're going to go off to VCs and start raising more money. That's going to dilute them. That can happen, and it happens a lot. But they're really looking for things where they can make a difference with the amount of money they can put in. But these have to be scalable businesses. These aren't local businesses. These aren't lifestyle. These aren't lifestyle businesses. These have to be scalable businesses that somebody will want to buy because they can scale it further than you could. Venture capital go after bigger opportunities. So angels, an individual group will invest anywhere between, let's say, $100,000 and $1 million. $1 million is a large investment for an angel fund. They usually keep what we call dry powder, so they can come back in for follow-up investment of about double the amount. So that's how they manage their funds. But you have to imagine that you can get where you need to go on $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, maybe $5 million worth of investment over a couple of years with angels. If that's all you need, venture capital isn't interested in you because they've got a bunch of money. So they got tens of millions or hundreds of millions or billions of dollars that they need to put to work, and they have to go after big opportunities. So venture capital goes after opportunities that can turn into $100 million businesses or more. Mm-hmm. And so you have to know where your business is likely to be and then go for the money at the right place. We don't always know, right? So we don't know on either side because sometimes we have rose-colored glasses and we think we've got the next billion, we got the next unicorn. Or sometimes we're nervous about what we have and we undersell what we're doing. So these aren't necessarily easy decisions to make at any time.
So you talked a little about a screening process. It's not like you just Google North Carolina angel investors, although you can,
Right.
and show up on their doorstep and say, "Hey, I'm here. I know you've been waiting for me. It's time. I'm ready to make my pitch." Talk to us a little bit about how just in order to make a pitch. Talk a little bit about the screening process that you go through to get to that point.
We have to think about the numbers game, and honestly, I don't have the numbers in front of me. But a group is going to see hundreds of pitches for everyone, or hundreds of opportunities for everyone they invite to pitch in front of their group. So it's like a resume for your company. So how are you going to get through that? So generally, if you make a cold call, right? If you go apply for a job and just knock on the door, that's one way, and then they give you an application to fill out, and then it sits on a desk, a stack of 200 applications. Or you go through your network and you get introduced, right? So it's always better to get a job through an introduction, and it's always better to get in front of an investor through an introduction. That's kind of the first step. So, and I would say to that, if you don't have credibility through someone in your network to make an introduction, you're probably not ready to pitch anyway. Somebody's got to believe in you and kind of carry you up this stairway. So assume you've got enough of an introduction that you can get in, and you send your deck in. And the first screening you don't see because someone's looking over your deck and saying, "Do I want to call this person for a phone interview?" Again, very much like a job interview. Then we tend to have a phone interview, go over the pitch, get interrupted a lot. They ask questions, tend to be short calls. Then they'll get back to you to say, "Okay, I think our membership would like to see you pitch." Then you get invited to pitch, and depending on the organization, and so I pitched last week at the Charlotte Angel Fund. You get 10 minutes. So you get 10 minutes. You've been working on this for a year and taking all the complexity that you know about the market and your product and why you're so good. And you got to tell them in 10 minutes. You got to tell people you don't know in the membership group what you're pitching.
And get them excited.
And again, they're not going to offer you the job there. They're not going to make the investment. All that is an invitation to take the next steps. So that's kind of the process. And the hard part is knowing what to communicate when and clearly. And I may have done it, but it's not easier for me today, any easier for me today than it was yesterday.
So I suspect the challenge. You talk about you're living, sweating, bleeding this company, and you have to boil it down to 10 minutes and try to get people interested in it. So, do you have recommendations, suggestions? Are there certain elements that are key to include in that presentation? I sort of assume that you have to convince people that there's a viable opportunity, a viable market, a problem that you're solving. I mean, how does your mind work in organizing a presentation to grab someone's interest in 10
Well, my
minutes?
mind doesn't work in doing this, but how should one, if one could do it the right way? First of all, you have to work for clarity, and you have to communicate that there is an opportunity with a problem that you understand. And even saying that, you want to do that on one slide. So that's hard enough. Then you want to be able to explain that you have a clear solution for that problem and that opportunity. You want to get across the value proposition. So the value proposition is the statement of economic viability. Why is somebody going to pay you to solve their problem? Right. So you may have a solution and that costs them more than what they're doing today, and they're not going to switch, or you save them 3% and it's not worth the time to switch, or you don't even know where the money goes. Right. But in the end, this is a business, and it's about money. So now, I'm not. There are certainly feel-good sort of things one can sell, and I'm not talking about those businesses, and some of them scale quite large. Mm-hmm. And my chair keeps sinking.
I know our listeners are concerned about your chair.
My chair is so we have to communicate the value proposition. We have to then be able to talk about how we find and grab our customers. How do we sell? how do we scale the customers? How do we grow the market? And then we need to be able to describe our team. We need to be able to also say how we fit with respect to the competition and why our product would be better than the competition. Why our team can out-execute, to your earlier point, why our team can out-execute the competition. And by the way, a common fallacy is, well, I don't really have competition because I'm so creative that I came up with something that nobody else had. Usually, like 100% of the time, that's wrong on its face. But second of all, if there's no other competition at all, you probably haven't defined a market, and you don't want to be the one who's trying to convince
that would be a good clue. That may be true.
That would be a good clue. Yeah. And then financials, and you don't want to present all the details of your financials, but you have to show that you have a sense of what revenues you generate, what your top line profitability, or what we call the gross margin.
If people want to see that you've got a good understanding.
You have to know what's
key numbers.
You have to know what's under your nose.
Yeah.
And in terms of the key numbers, what are the metrics that are going to drive your business?
There you go.
Because you can't get into the spreadsheets. In due diligence, they'll do that, but even that's not the killer. You just have to know what metrics are you going to follow that tell you whether you are on track and meeting or exceeding your objectives. And of course, cash flow is critical. That's why we raise money, because you have to have cash. And certainly there's a chicken and egg problem, right? You need cash to get started, but you're asking for cash to get started. So timing becomes a big issue, and something that you, as the entrepreneur and the CEO, that's your job to figure out and manage.
You're really, when you're making a pitch like you made last week, you're not pitching for someone to come up to you that day and write you a check. You're really pitching to get into a due diligence type situation where they're going to say, hey, this is interesting. We want to know more. We want to kick the tires. How do you talked a little bit about sharing certain financial information. I mean, are there confidentiality issues that concern you, or how do you deal with that sort of thing?
First of all, you will never get a confidentiality agreement signed by an investor. So don't even try. Don't waste time. You'll look like a neophyte. You just file off the turnip truck. So don't do that. Which means that you have to be comfortable sharing the information to get across. And look, the investors see they see 1,000 times more things than you see, and don't worry about the confidentiality. Now, you have to be smart and don't give away things you want to patent. That's for sure. But they're not looking in the box. They want to know your business. What is your business proposition? Mm-hmm. So you shouldn't even be in a position where that matters. And frankly, showing your financials can feel a little scary. Is this over-aggressive, or does it look like I don't have a business? Don't worry about it. Just be honest. Operate with integrity and say what you know. It is worth kind of keeping in mind that when you send your pitch out, first of all, it's a non-confidential document. Others will see your pitch. They will keep it private in their group to the extent that they do, but they won't. Right? So I can't count how many pitches I've seen of other groups because people have shared them with me. It's really valuable. Right? So just think of it, you're going to get pitches that are going to help you grow. Someone's going to see yours, and it's going to help them. So just deal with it.
Okay.
You have a very original approach to this. We deal with a lot of folks that say, can't do that, can't. I know. But you sit there and go, I can't give up this idea. I can't, the confidentiality. I mean,
but you're not going to get where you need to go. Yeah. And in the end, if you have a good idea with traction and at whatever level you're at, no two competitors are going to solve the same market problem the same way. There's so many dynamics that drive your choices on product, your choices on customer service, your personality, your culture, everything, that if you're not offering something unique, so if you don't feel like you're unique enough that you can afford to be in the spotlight a little bit, you're not going to win.
So when you were talking to us, you said you had to make a 10-minute presentation last week. I also suspect there is some time given to the potential investors to ask some questions of you.
Right.
And
that's right.
Any advice or Any advice in terms of how you deal with those sort of questions, or just be open, honest, and is it okay to say I don't know every now and then?
It's absolutely okay to say I don't know. Don't make up stories.
Because you're going to lose credibility.
You're going to lose credibility is the one thing you have that can carry you forward, and so you want to maintain your credibility at all costs. Come prepared, right? So you've got 10 minutes. The best pitches, I think, have kind of an addendum at the back with a lot of detail and knowing, basically like an FAQ. Write your FAQ before you pitch. Here are the things I didn't talk about that people want to know, and have answers. So generally speaking, you still know more than anyone asking you questions, and almost all the time you'll be able to answer questions that they throw at you. If you don't, just say I don't know, or I'll get back to you.
Are there certain things that you suggest that our listeners avoid when they're making pitches? Any things that you've stepped in before that?
Always, every day. The first is, remember, you know so much more about your market and product that they do that you don't try to be the smartest guy in the room and impress them with everything you know.
And you can't do that in 10 minutes anyway.
You can't do that in 10 minutes.
Well, I could.
Come across as an arrogant jerk pretty quickly, but
that's true.
You're trying to avoid that.
I would say that as well. Don't come across as an arrogant jerk. So I've heard plenty of feedback of founders who have come in and they haven't gotten funded and they don't know why, and then I hear from the investors, I just don't want to work with that guy.
That's key. It is about the people too.
It is. Look, it's all about people, right? So everything is about people. And starting up a company is no different. You've got to hire people. So the other is, we tend to start because we believe we have a product, a technology, etc. Well, that happens to serve a solution. So we do frequently start as a technology push, whether that's the right way to do it or not. But we do. And so we get enamored with our technology, and we want to talk about it all the time. We've got to learn not to do that. That's really hard. But that's what I think most entrepreneurs do in their pitches that gets them in the most trouble. They spend too much time on their product and their technology rather than how it's serving the customer.
So less technical, more help people understand my business model.
It's really about the business model. And of course we think, well, if they don't understand my product and my insight, they're not going to understand the business model. That takes work. I can say it over and over again. It's like coaching, right? You don't have to be the best tennis player to be a good coach. So I can coach on this, but I struggle every day because I'm in my own weeds, right? I can't get the trees out of my head to look at the forest. So no matter what we say, it is hard to make the decisions to get your pitch crisp and clear.
Oh, cool. Well, as we sort of wind up here, any other, from a startup perspective and what you've gone through with one company and starting down the journey with the second company, do you have any other advice that you would throw out there for startups that you've gone through from experience?
I think it's. I think we kind of have a mythology about startups and entrepreneurism. Not everyone's going to get rich doing this. So you have to first do it for the right reasons. And the journey has to be as important as the result you're after, because the journey may be a lot longer than you think. So I think there are probably some types who can just go after the pure business model and do it, but most of us can't. We need some reason. So make sure the reason that you believe in the reason you're doing it, and that you have the perseverance to keep doing it. Second is, you do need money, and so value your investors. To me, my investors, and some of them became board members, were invaluable to me going forward. So it's worth knowing how you're going to raise money. If you're doing something that's scalable, you're going to need money. The third thing I'd say is, when are you going to raise money? This is the hardest part, because you need money early, but you can't raise money early. So you've got to work with customers and figure out how to get traction early. And that helps make sure to the point that you have a market, and build your lead adopters. And even if they're not spending money on you yet, you got to make sure you've got them and that they believe in your product before you go in front of investors.
good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well, Eric, we very much appreciate you sharing your experience and giving our listeners some advice on, if and when they get the opportunity to pitch. They'll hopefully do it a little bit better. But it sounds like if you want to get to Carnegie Hall, you got to practice. So
you have to practice.
You got to get out there and just keep swinging at it.
Keep swinging.
Hello, this is Chris from the Foot Candle Film Podcast. Are you interested in promoting your business to an online audience? Your ad could be right here. Consider advertising on the Mesh Podcast Network. Head over to themesh.tv for details.
We often, what we like to do, if you are up for it, is we have a lightning round of questions that are totally unrelated to business. It's more, delving into your personal psyche.
That's very scary.
Okay. Well, you up for
How's
it?
that for a lead-in?
This is a very short answer.
Let's try.
Okay.
Let's see what I can
All right.
do.
So our lightning round today is sponsored by Ned Ryerson Insurance. Whole life, home, auto, wind, storm. You can never have enough insurance. So make sure you're insured. Check out Ned Ryerson Insurance. You should Google it. So, Eric, your first question. What is your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, that's easy. St. Lucia.
St. Lucia?
I like to go diving.
Okay. Question 2. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Hot dog is a sandwich. Of course it is.
Okay. Not everyone agrees with that.
Well, I got meat in a bun.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
I got a meat between bread. That's a sandwich.
All right.
And condiments.
Your preference, Godfather, Star Wars, or Harry Potter movies?
Oh, that is so easy. Godfather.
I thought you would
All-
go that
all the
way.
way.
You look like a Godfather
All
kind
the
of guy. What is your favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving. No presents, family, food.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
I think it will come back and bite them. Karma will
Bad
get
karma?
them. Bad karma.
Okay.
Bad karma.
Is it okay to wear socks with sandals?
Absolutely not.
Last question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I got 3. One, I want perseverance. I want
Perseverance.
infinite perseverance to get through this process.
Okay.
Second, I want infinite optimism to get through the down days. And the third is I want luck. I want luck because there's that competition out there. I want them to stumble and fall on their face and give me my luck.
You can tell the sort of person we're dealing with, Gary, because most of the people just say, I want to be able to fly or X-ray vision, and a different perspective from today's guest, Eric Buckland. So, Eric, if people want to find you, and I don't know if you want to be found, but if they're looking for you, where should they be looking at?
Well, you can look for me on LinkedIn, Buckland on LinkedIn. We have now Twitter, so I became modern just this week. So at TI Innovations is our Twitter handle. Follow us, TIINNOVATIONS. And we have a website with the TIInnovations.com.
TIInnovations.com.
Look us up, follow us.
All right.
Stay in touch.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that with us. We'd like to wind up with our Small Business of the Month feature. So, Gary, what small business are you going to give a shout-out to this month?
Well, before I say that, Eric, can I use that in my next graduation speech?
Absolutely.
Perseverance.
Yes, you may.
And optimism.
Without a watermark. You can just use it. Yeah.
That was outstanding. That was great. Okay, so my business of the month is a little out of character for me in one way. And you actually gave me the idea, Jeff. It's a little scary.
Was beer related to this?
Absolutely was. That's why it's a
Okay.
little out of character, because I have
Super.
allergy to.
Okay.
And it's right across the street from the Corporate Development Center. You were talking to me about it. You're not using them, are you?
No.
This time? Okay.
Plow ahead.
Okay. It's the Patriot Brew-Through, drive-through for adult beverages outlet. The veteran-owned convenience store offers superior service and convenience. One thing you might know about military veterans is they like to excel in everything they do. So when they decided to open the brew-through, and axe throwing, that's what really interested me about this. Is I just passed it every day, many times. But when you told me that they have axe throwing, I just kind of lost it for a little bit. But they set out to solve 2 issues. They saw the importance of convenience stores and time-consuming, cutting down on the things that we do. And for the first issue, they solved the drive-through convenience. They got that. The second issue is online store and free home delivery. I didn't know that until I read about them. So you don't even have to find your car keys if you need that. So you can either drive through or they'll bring it to you. They're all about making a difference so that they can change your life and freeing up time for things you love to do, which I guess would be
Like
drinking and axe throwing.
Yes.
We drink a little and then we go throw things.
Hopefully in the other order.
And I learned so much about axe throwing and liquor. I got a little worried. And they're part of the World Axe Throwing League.
I did not
Did
know
you know
this.
that?
You've really done your research.
I said,
today,
I
Gary.
work.
I'm impressed.
So I'm sitting there going, this has to be talked about on our podcast.
Okay.
And of course, you're not just a promoter. You are a satisfied customer, if I understand.
I am a satisfied customer. I've visited there, and my son and I did do some axe throwing, and he is now 21, and we might have sampled a beer or two.
Well,
while
I think
there.
that's appropriate, but I still
definitely axe throwing and beer goes to.
I was going to say, I think
peanut butter and jelly.
Appropriate going with your father to show for the alcohol and what you should choose and what you shouldn't. But I still can't get over the axe throwing.
Okay, well,
But you know what?
It's a great hook.
It's a great hook. You took the words right out of my mouth. Better words, actually.
Yes, well, I'll
Because
introduce
look,
you.
I don't drink much, but I think I'm going to go.
No, I'll introduce you to the guy there that does it, Captain Hook. He doesn't have all his fingers, but that's all
bless.
good. So I did suggest that the college host utilize that for the next retreat.
I think that's an awesome thing. I think
So,
you need to send that out to Dean Melton.
I did send that out to
Very
Dean
good.
Melton. So anyway. Well, I'm glad that you gave them a shout out. My small business this month is a business called Muller Saving Mom, which you can, if you go to MoolahSavingMom.com, MOOLA SavingMom.com. It's a website created by an entrepreneur to help families save money through strategic couponing. And strategic couponing is using strategies to maximize your savings by using coupons at the right time and right place. So sometimes it's purchasing more than one, but if you go to this website, they actually track which grocery stores are having sales and try to give you the right coupons to maximize your your savings. You can use them in the most effective manner and save up to 50% on your grocery bills. The best thing about it for our listeners, it doesn't cost you anything. If you go to MoolahSavingMom.com, they don't charge a fee. They just make money. It's affiliate marketing. They make money when you download coupons from them. It was started by Jessie Alonzo, who's a mom of 4, and she was an expert in using coupons and decided to help others do the same. And she's been doing this for several years, since started in 2010. She's taught coupon classes since 2011, including classes at Wake Forest University and Forsyth County Public Library in North Carolina. That's around Winston-Salem. She also has been a weekly columnist with the Winston-Salem Journal, writing a Coupon Corner column. So Joe Bob says check that one out. So anyway.
Very cool.
If you've got a suggestion for our Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, you can email them to us at eexchange@themesh.tv. If we use yours, you'll get a Entrepreneur Prize Pack. We want to thank Eric Buckland for joining us today, and we want to thank the Mesh Podcast Network for hosting us. You should be checking out all the podcasts that the Mesh has to offer at themesh.tv. You can subscribe to the Entrepreneur Exchange by visiting iTunes or many of the usual suspect podcast sites. So anyway, appreciate everybody listening, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next month. And we wish Gary safe travels to Louisville, and we'll see how things go when we get together next time.
Thank you very much. We're excited about next week.
All right.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.